the curriculum. And of course, there's a bunch of other things like fire prevention safety going on this week that I guess we remembered to change our batteries and our smoke detectors and check the extinguisher under the sink and those sorts of things. So that's the theme this year. I mean, in the next while, you'll be hearing a lot more from the Liberal Party about our education platform. And of course, during the provincial election, whenever the Premier decides to call it, you'll hear very much the specifics of our election platform. We've talked before about our aim to build a better education system, and one of the things that we want to do is to have a better quality education that includes respecting the right of teachers to providing teachers with the tools they need to have proper assessment practices and evaluation. And
what does that include, though, compared to what we're doing?
Well, we won't. I don't want to rehash the no zeros policy again, but that's certainly what I'm alluding to, is ensuring that we train teachers, and in fact, teachers who are trained in this province, their training is by and large paid for by taxpayers in this province. So we train them to enable them to exercise their professional discretion when it comes to doing assessment. And I don't think we want to hamstring them by enforcing policies such as that so-called no zeros policy. But another thing we want to do is ensure that teachers in the classroom have the resources they need if we're going to have an inclusive education system. And one of the things that we've seen happen, and the NLTA was a sort of a stalemate as far as I could see as an observer with government in its negotiations. One of the things that they wanted to do was to have a committee of sorts with government on inclusive education. Just prior, I think it was the Friday prior to the PC Leadership Convention, for some reason government sent this press release out late in the afternoon, which, I mean, considering all the events that happened that weekend with the tie that wasn't a tie and stuff, and more or less this press release was buried under the news of the PC leadership. But in fact, government did strike a joint committee on inclusive education with the NLTA to look at how things are going. So we think that's a good start. That's sort of a ground level place to start to make an assessment of how things are going and where resources are needed, because there are no simple answers to any of this, and I certainly don't have all the answers myself. I was a bit surprised that there wasn't any member of a school council, a representative parents, or any people from that sort of background on this committee, and none from any advocacy groups either, because we often hear folks in different quarters talking about advocacy for persons with disabilities, whether that's autism or other say invisible or visible disabilities. So having said that, I mean, this is a positive initiative, and we'll have to see where it goes into the future. But I mean, ultimately, decisions are going to have to be made, because we hear all the time from parents and from advocates, from teachers, administrators, that what we're doing isn't working the best way that it can, right?
I don't think anyone will dispute that. There are an awful lot of issues that go on inside education, from the department right through the board itself, and then trickles right down to administrators on site in specific schools. I can't wrap my head around some of it, and I was really lost when I heard from the minister once that he said some of these decisions do not belong on the minister's desk, or is it the onus should be on the minister for some of these? These are school board decisions. Well, when and if we have someone charged with being the minister of such a critical portfolio, and we have what is obviously, to 99% of us anyway, policies that are absolutely, for starters, maybe horrendous, some of them just maybe misguided, then it is the minister's responsibility to do something about it and to ensure the board level has a close look and we evaluate and debate it publicly, because, entrusting all the decisions to very small collections of people who sometimes academics get so caught up in their own narrow focus of stuff that they don't see anything else that's out there. It's one of the things that we do when we have academics make decisions. No disrespect, I have no education, so I'm not looking down my nose at people with PhDs, but sometimes they get you know what I mean though, Dale, right? Sometimes they get so caught up in their own world of academia, they outsmart themselves. Next thing you know, the policy doesn't make any sense.
In all seriousness, I mean, we know we've got some problems with standardized testing. There's no questions about that, that we do have problems with the mathematics curriculum. We know that there are all sorts of problems like in the system. We also know that the solutions to these problems aren't always going to be revenue neutral, but we know that we can't just throw a bag of money at everything and assume that problems are going to go away. Yeah. Over the past number of years, I mean, the system has been in a constant state of shift, and amalgamating school districts. The board still hasn't produced, for whatever reason, a set of bylaws that will show where when we return to a democratic system of school governance and the problems, where those elected trustees will even come from. We haven't heard anything from the Minister of Education. We got a new one again now about when those school board elections are going to happen. So, in the end, and God love them. I mean, I don't think any of them have any nefarious intent, but in the end, we are dealing with a school board that's made up of trustees who are appointed by government rather than people that went out and got elected to the board for whatever reason or agenda that they're bringing to the table themselves. So things need to settle down a good bit. I think this Joint Committee on Inclusive Education is a smart way to go, but in the end, reviews are only going to take us so far, and we're going to have to make changes, sooner than later. We can't just continue to kick the can further and further down the road and delay solutions, right?
No, and we all know that because, the kids in grade 5 today are as important or more important than the kid in grade 5 years from now. So we have to do what satisfies the best interests of students today, and no waiting and evaluating and taking what would be a child's entire career from kindergarten to 6th before we adjust policies that we see are not performing, and that we are leaving some kids with maybe not the best approach to curriculum and all the other policies that control schools. Dale, I got to go to the break, but I appreciate your time this morning. The quality of education. I was shocked the last time there was a poll where people were asked, what's the big priorities for you? Only 6% said education. Like, that just blows my mind. I don't know why we don't put higher priority and put much more attention into that, because that could spare us an awful lot of costs and make things an awful lot better for a lot of people in this province. Appreciate your time, sir. Anything very quick before I wrap up?
No, thank you very much for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Take care. Dale Kirby, Liberal member of the House, St. John's North.